One of the oddly more frustrating aspects of toy making is the rules set by licensors and how they can change. Let me give you an example. Lobo was a figure that when I was at Mattel on the DC line, we really wanted to do in multiple styles and scales. I mean, in particular, I really wanted to do an animated style version for the Justice League Unlimited line because, well, I was a huge fan of the line and Lobo had some significant screen time on the show. Well, unfortunately, at that time, and we're talking the kind of early 2000s, 2005, 6, etc., Warner Brothers, the parent company of DC, felt that if a Lobo toy was made and a child was to engage with said toy product, even if it was aimed at adults, if it was sold in the toy aisle, this would be a bad thing. Kids playing with Lobo would mean that kids would pick up a Lobo comic book and then start acting like Lobo and drinking and smoking and becoming an intergalactic bounty hunter. So the loophole we were able to work out with a lot of begging, pleading, and asking nicely was that we could do Lobo online or at a convention, but not at retail, not anywhere where a kid would see it. And that at least was a solution to getting Lobo in both the Justice League Unlimited and the DCU Classics line because, essential DC character. All right, well, like I said, rules change, and now you can find Lobo in any number of products at retail and products that are aimed at young kids, 3 and up. Whew. Yeah, long way from being banned to being in the 3 and up aisle. But, money talks, and Lobo, like the Punisher, sells. All right, so with that concept established, the fact that rules can change, and that's basically what happened, although I think this was money being made. Another character that fell in with this whole rule change issue was the Question, and it's an interesting tale. So you may know me as a big Masters of the Universe fan, but I was also, and still am, a huge fan of Justice League Unlimited, both the show and the toy line. When I started at Mattel as a writer in the Hot Wheels group, I was watching the sort of tail end of the Justice line being developed just a few cubicles over by the Boys Action group. I was in the Boys Wheels group at the time. And, it was kind of painful watching, the last few sets being produced, knowing what a big fan base there was, myself included. So I was overjoyed when I was moved into the DC marketing group, and one of the lines that was assigned to me was Justice League, and I had the chance to actually work on a line I was actively collecting. A thing I did was find ways to refresh Batman, for example, and while still making him appeal to kids, putting in little things for collectors, like the Wonder Pig. Another touch that I always felt I did right was updating decos, like Booster Gold there, and taking an existing tool and just reissuing it in show-accurate colors. Boom! Awesome way to help the company and fans. So the character The Question was on the show a lot, especially in the first season of Unlimited. He was definitely sort of an anchor for a huge story arc. But unfortunately, he was one of the Charleston characters that DC acquired, in the 60s, 70s, I think. And because of this, he wasn't available to be made as a toy. Mattel at the time only had rights to Superman and Batman characters. We could do a few others in Justice League Unlimited, hence Booster Gold, but they couldn't be Charleston characters. That's just part of the way the contract was, even if Charleston characters were on the show. What changed was when Mattel got the master license for all of DC in, 2005, 2006. This was when I was moved over to oversee the brand and help develop what became the DC Universe brand, which brought all characters, all sizes, all scales. One of the lines that we launched right away was Infinite Heroes, which was meant to take advantage of the fact that we now had rights to so many more characters. This was issued in 6-packs, 2-packs, singles, etc., to try to have a really powerful planogram. The line didn't do that well. The sculpts had a lot to do with it. But The Question as a character was slotted for a early release, I think in wave 1 or 2. And I knew that was going to be an issue with fans because we had wanted Question in JLU for so many years. And, to suddenly get him in another line was honestly going to be, in my mind, as a collector, seen as an insult. So I really pushed, as a brand manager, that we find a way to get Question into JLU as soon as possible. The problem was we didn't have any tooling, so I had to start going through the history of the line, looking to see if anything was available. And I did find this Superman versus Lex Luthor 2-pack that was done in year 2 of the Justice League license. It was Luthor with snap-on armor. Well, I guess Superman had snap-on armor too, because, Superman needs a giant missile on his shoulder. He doesn't have any other powers. But it was a cool way to do Lex Luthor, where you could have him both with the armor, and if you took the armor off, he was wearing a suit, because, bald men in suits sell really well to kids. Well, I was like, oh, cool, yay, suit body, boom. It wasn't the best. But fortunately, Bill Beneke, on the design side, said, I think I have a better idea. And he dug up what was called the Hazmat line, which was a line Mattel put out when the Batman license was transitioning from Hasbro to Mattel during the tail end of Batman the Animated Series. So Mattel put out figures that sort of looked like the Hasbro figures, and in this line was a Two-Face figure. And we had the tooling for this, and it was a much better suit buck, than the Lex Luthor one, because he had a tie, not a tuxedo. So this figure, we also did look at the Joker as well, but obviously the tie worked better than the bow tie on the Joker, became the source of the parts to make the Question. But another big issue that happened was his figure, when it was painted, was completely off model in my mind. I mean, it was small details, like the gloves were painted flesh, the shirt wasn't as yellow, the band around the tie was the wrong color, and his hair was the wrong color. It was brown, not black. Well, there was a push to be like, it's good enough, it's good enough. And this was the first big fight I had with design. I was like, no, we have to get this figure right. The demand for this has been so long, especially because he wasn't allowed. So yeah, you could see the one on the right there is the Paint Master, where the hair is brown, there's no gloves, there's some paint scratching off on the back, just because that's what happens to Paint Masters after 20 years. So at the end of the day, I blew all of my capital, every possible good wish and favor I had, and we not only got him out, but we got him out in the correct colors, with the gloves, with the correct hair color. I was so proud of it, but I was exhausted. I don't think I ever fought so much for one single figure in my entire time at Mattel. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at the quest for the Question and to add him into the line. If you have any other thoughts, did you want him back in the day? Were you one of those fans that was really asking for him and frustrated we couldn't get him? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed this look behind the scenes, and I'll see you in the next video.